Good. Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order this USD 417 Board of Education regular meeting. There's quite a few people in the room, so we're going to go around and do introductions today, just so everyone's aware who's here. Tina Ray Scott, Jamie Johnson,
Ray Bly,
Kelsey Hartman,
Terry Powell,
Tasha Green, Kelsey Brimmer,
Jay Dornbos,
Angela Harris, Dana Reddick,
Tim Tyner, Chris Elforge.
Heather Hunnis, Valerie Gear, Amber Weeks,
and Nancy Meyer.
All right, and then I did just see Taylor Green walk in, so Taylor, we do have chairs. You want to hop in? There's room.
signing up.
Okay. Very first thing on our agenda this evening is the empty chair philosophy. Nancy.
You'll notice an empty chair in the middle of the boardroom. I ask you to picture a student in our district, whether it be one in the classroom, on the stage, or on the court or field, that is represented by the empty chair. We are here for our students, and all decisions should be made keeping students at the forefront of all those decisions. As the best schools make decisions based on the needs and interests of their students, not the habits and traditions of the adults, I ask you to keep that student in your mind while making decisions to ensure the best interest of our students by providing a safe learning environment that is relevant and rigorous to prepare them for post-secondary endeavors.
Thank you, Mrs. Myers. And to those who are joining us that probably haven't sat through our meeting before, that is something that we are doing at the start of every board meeting. So we just ask that you continue to reflect on the student throughout your time here. Mrs. Davis, we did introductions. Would you like to introduce yourselves? And then please remember that you all need to sign in on your way out.
Okay, great. Hi, I am Samantha Davis, ELA teacher and theater director.
I am Alex Priest.
I'm Emily Hingston.
Great, thank you. All right, the next item are the additions and approval of our agenda.
I do have an addition under board action or business items and reports to the board after number 6, facilities assessment. I'd like to have a 6A, which is a maintenance bid from Central Mechanical.
So our agenda this evening includes comments from the patrons, the spotlight and education, approval of our bills, approval of our consent agenda, which we'll go through in a few moments, the administrative reports, board member items, and our business items and reports. Anything else that we need to add?
We do need to have, after J, we need to insert some executive sessions. We will have 3 executive sessions at the end of our meeting. One will be on students. One will be on personnel. And a third one will be to complete the superintendent evaluation. There will be no action taken during these executive sessions.
Okay.
Madam President, I move we approve the agenda as presented with the mentioned changes.
Okay. Can I get a second, please? Jamie moved, Marie seconded the agenda as presented with the 2 additions. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next piece is our comments of the Morris County USD 417 patrons. Amber, did we have anyone that signed up to speak tonight? Okay. Next up is our spotlight on education. Mrs. Davis.
Hello. So I'm here to talk a little bit about our fall musical. So CG Players, this year for our fall musical, we are doing a production of Anastasia. Particularly, we're doing the youth version, which is a little bit shorter because 9 weeks is really not enough time to put on the full 2-hour musical production that we would love to put on. 3 of the people that I brought with me, these are our 3 leads in the play. So we've got a lot of strong actors in our wonderful midst. Will you 3 please introduce who your characters are?
I play the Grand Duchess Anastasia Romanov.
I play Vlad Popov.
I play Dimitri, and so I'm basically like Vlad's best friend, and I help Anya throughout the whole production.
Our musicals are officially under direction of Mr. Meals. He does the main portions of it, and then I'm the assistant director. So our show is Saturday, November 4th and Sunday, November 5th. And we're looking forward to putting on an awesome production for everybody. That final week of school, or final week of that will be our tech week. So we'll be doing a lot of dress rehearsals and running through everything. And hopefully I can secure enough ball gowns and flapper dresses to properly throw off the 1920s in Paris for everybody and transport us to that. Outside of that, just general CG Players updates. I want to say thank you to the board for allowing us to get brand new curtains on the stage. They look phenomenal if you haven't had a chance to look at them. They're really exciting and nice, and every time a kid goes anywhere near them, I may or may not bark at them a little bit, so please not touch them because that's a thing we're not supposed to do. So we're really grateful for that, and we're excited for that new improvement to our area. And then CG Players as a club as a whole is visiting ESU on October 25th to go watch their production of Little Shop of Horrors and also get an opportunity to talk back with their cast and crew. And then the director and interim director in charge of theater at ESU, Dennis Turney, is actually coming up on Friday, November 3rd to work with my theater class and share a little bit about theater in college and do an acting workshop with them. And so that's another exciting thing that we're doing in the world of theater this year. Any questions? We hope you can all make it. It's gonna be a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can,
Yep.
just make sure that you sign the sign-up sheet as well on your way up.
Okay, because we
Yes.
had rehearsal at 6.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Our next spotlight on education, Mr. Green, would you like to tell us about your upcoming?
Yes, I guess I have a couple of things coming up kind of big. One of them is horse judging the 18th of October, so the next Wednesday. I usually take about 20 kids. This year I'm only taking 9 simply because of room. Our district has about 25 schools, and last year at the same contest, we had 300 kids. So they limited us to 9, so I'm taking my 9 best, and I have some really good horse kids that are really interested in equestrian things. So we'll be going that next week. Deal is it's in Saddle and Swirling Club in Missouri, so that's kind of the reason I'm here tonight to share a little more about that. But we'll be taking 9 kids next week to that. Real excited kids have been in there working. So good deal. I guess first of the month, or first of November, I'll be taking 9 kids to our annual trip to the National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. A couple of new things I want to do with them this year is actually there's a big cattle ranch right along I-70 I want to kind of take them to, and I've actually talked to the guy about, agriculture in Illinois and how the cattle industry is going on there, and talk to him about some things they do. I'm taking 9 kids, and every single one of them in some way like cattle. So that's good. So I thought we'd stop there, and actually I thought about taking kids to a boar stud, which is a place where they raise boars for production purposes, and showing them that side of things as well. So that'll be on the way out, and on the way on there, we'll kind of hit up the career show, hit up some sessions, listen to some cool speakers, have some leadership workshops, and probably take a tour or 2. We're still excited to decide that, but we're going to do that on the way out there. That'll be November 1st to the 4th. Taking 9 kids as well to that. So some exciting stuff going on. That's me. Any questions?
You want to talk about your tailgate?
Tailgate went good. Yeah, we cooked a hog again. Had 5 kids in the morning at 2 o'clock in the morning to help me put it on. Went great. Food turned out really good, I thought. Man, I had lots of help. My kids are awesome. Gosh, I didn't really have to do much. They were all kind of doing it all. So years past, it's kind of been different. So these kids, this group of kids are awesome. Raised a good amount of money there, so it's been good for us. Here in actually this upcoming week, I kind of need to start fruit and meat sales as well. I need to talk to Mr. Dornbos about that. I've not got that in. I need to talk to him about that. It's kind of slipped up on me. But that'll be coming soon, so I'll be have that, kids around the community doing our annual fruit and meat sales to kind of raise money for us. One thing people may not know is FFA takes a lot of money to run, like a lot of money. So those kids do a very good job of fundraising and working their butts off to really kind of, do our ins and outs of what we do every year. So got a good group of kids. I think there's 82, I believe, I put in for FFA this year, which is pretty good numbers. I've had a little bit more, I've had a little bit less, so we're up about 6 this year. So good. Classes are going very well. Got a lot of excited kids that do a lot of good things this year. So a lot of the contests and stuff will kind of all happen later on in the spring. But I'm a participated in Mr. Dormouse last year, but I think I have like 30 days I counted I'll be gone for taking kids to the outside experiences that they'll have. Career development events is what we call them. So a lot of exciting stuff. And then actually in November, I'll be taking kids to a welding contest in Paola. Very excited about that. So yeah, it's about to pick up and we're about to roll. So that's me. Any other questions? I guess we'll come back around to those.
We will. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is approval of our monthly bills and financials. The financials were sent out on Friday, and the total amount this month is $174,009.17. Any questions regarding financials?
Madam President, I move that we approve the payment amount of $174,009.17 in monthly bills.
Second. It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we approve the monthly bills and financials in the amount of $174,009.17. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed? Okay. Marie, are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. And just for documentation, an abstain is a no vote. Okay. The next item on our agenda is item G, which is approval of the consent agenda. Let's approve the minutes of the previous meeting from September 11th, 2023, financial reports and pay bills, donations and gifts, personnel. Under employment, Keevy O'Brien as a regular route driver and Nicole Hewitt as a Counts Grove Junior Senior High School cook and cashier. Resignations, Heather Carlson as the Counts Grove Junior Senior High School food service, Riley Finch as the Council Grove Junior Senior High School cheerleading sponsor. And just a note that was omitted previously from a former meeting, so this one's retroactive back to the start of the school year. Mackenzie Rowlett as the junior high assistant track coach. And item C, retirement of Heather Honus as the Council Grove Elementary School principal. And we want to make sure we identify the effective date on that. is June 30th of 2024, just so no one gets excited at the end of this meeting thinking that Mrs. Honus is leaving tomorrow. So anything that you would like to see added or removed to the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that. It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Tina Ray to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we're moving on to our administrative reports that were part of the packet. Any questions or concerns regarding the administrative reports for our administrators that are here? Any further additions that our administrators have that they'd like to add at this time?
Just add doors. I know I sent an email about the league updates, so if you have any questions about that, but everything with our league is now finalized. And then with our league updates, we met last week for redistricting of football. So we'll be in a different district next year, same classification, but different district.
Any further administrative reports from the admin that are in the room? Okay. Mrs. Meyer, anything that you would like to add?
I do have a few things. We have a policy to reimburse board members for their mileage to and from meetings. Because of new board members coming on January 1st, we'll make a payment for the first 6 months. If you would prefer not to be paid or to donate yours, you can let Amber know. If not, we will Google your home address, look at the meetings where and when we've had them, and pay you 65.5 cents a mile for your mileage to and from the meetings. Normally, we make that payment once a year to those that would like to receive it. Homecoming week, last week, what a success, and too bad the sun didn't shine on Friday for our parade. As you saw in the paper today, the picture of the little kids out on the field were all snuggled up. But I want to thank Jay and Matt and all the sponsors that had helped. We had floats, we had kids all over the place doing activities, and it was a very successful week. All except our football team. We had high hopes for them, and it didn't come out that way, but we had a huge crowd at the game. Our stands aren't quite big enough, and we have big events going on. But it ended up being a pleasant night, good fall weather for football. But I want to thank the administrators and all the sponsors at the high school that helped make those activities a success. Our Kansas State Department of Education Conference is October 25th to 27th. Our curriculum director, Ms. Gear, and I will be attending that Wednesday through Friday. There is a council superintendent's meeting. There are a couple sessions for our KISA accreditation that she will be attending. Normally they put on very informative meetings for us, updates about the State Department, updates on anything else that's coming about. And I want to pick some people's brain on open enrollment yet. So we'll talk about that later on, but anything that comes up that's new is always worth somebody from the State Department coming and talking and giving us hints on how to operate things. So looking forward to that. A week from Friday, October 20th, we have no school. The buildings will be holding parent conferences in the evenings, a couple nights, and so the teachers then and offices will all be closed on October 20th. We got news today from the State Department on the Kansas Star recognition. We send data in and they look at all of it, and we received 3 awards. And normally they have those banners and signs for us to post up here in the office, but they're not quite ready yet. But academically prepared for post-secondary, we received a copper award. So it's gold, silver, bronze, copper, right. Post-secondary effectiveness was copper also. And our graduation rate was silver. So when we look at all this that talks about post-secondary, I would say every grade level from pre-K through 12 had a hand in that. The high school and our counselors worked hard at getting the information once students left to see what they're doing after they're in school. But when we see our CTE programs go strong and travel, we know that we're trying to hit the interest of every child that we have in our school district. So kudos to all of our administrators and teachers that had a hand in that. And ISG technology is in the house. We've had a couple of Zoom meetings, Colton and I, with the leaders in Topeka. Their pricing for being our technology backup is just $2,000 or $3,000 less than what they originally gave us after they looked at our system. So to know that help is there and they're on call 24/7 for us. So that's basically all I have for now.
All right. Board members, anything to add?
I'd just like to say thanks to the district. Tina Ray and I went to a training, I don't know, a few weeks ago.
September 22nd.
There you go. For some board leadership training at KASB, which was a wonderful training. And I think just a good reminder of our role as board members and how we are that person up in the watchtower who's overlooking everything, and how once we start climbing down those steps of the watchtower to start putting out fires, we're no longer able to see where we need to be, and how just to keep that mentality, because it's hard for me because I want to climb down the steps and get in the weeds and start putting out fires. And so I think it's always a good reminder of that. So it was a really good training and we got some good information and some handouts and things to bring back and share. So thank you.
I just want to remind everyone, state convention is just prior to our November board meeting. So Mrs. Meyer, Jamie, and myself will be attending that. Also, I want to remind our patrons to check the school calendar. October contains an early out, a no school day, and a late start. And late start is new again this year, so just a reminder to our patrons that we put those late starts back out there, so make sure you're paying attention to the school calendar. And just a reminder to board members, if you can't be at a board meeting, or if you think there's something that's going to conflict, please make sure that you let Amber know as soon as possible so she can plan accordingly and make sure we have the Zoom meetings and everything set up. So that's all that I have.
And we will send out a school messenger alert for the October 20th and for the late start to all of our patrons. And the secretaries in each building work hard at keeping those emails and phone numbers updated as much as possible. We get a report from that, so we know we can contact that family if they didn't receive it. So we'll send that out in advance.
Great. Okay, so moving into our business items and our reports, we're going to start right back with Mr. Green and the FFA trips. If you look in your packet, the 2 trips that Mr. Green is requesting for out of town are those 2 initial trips that he talked about, the ECD Horse Saddle and Sirloin Club and Sedalia, just outside Kansas City.
Would we want to discuss the policy for funding national trips?
Do we want to take that first?
Yeah, I think that would give him an idea or them an idea of what we're doing.
Does everyone feel okay with that?
And how we're gonna pay for that.
That policy?
Uh-huh.
So
See if I
Mrs.
can-
Meyer and I and Jamie have sat down, we've talked about that, we have had this conversation multiple times over multiple years and trying to figure out what that looked like. So I think Mrs. Meyer was able to reach out to several CTE sponsors to gain some information, and that's included in our packet. So Mrs.
Yeah,
Meyer.
so in your packet, it says we will contribute the following contributions to help cover expenses for students to attend a national conference where students will participate or compete. This could also be out-of-state meeting too, where maybe there's overnight stay. But $250 per qualified student, up to a maximum of $2,000 for one event. We would pay all advisors' expenses, including room, meals, and travel. Any outside activities would not be covered by the district. So if they went on an outside tour that cost an entry fee or anything like that, the association that went would be responsible for that. Transportation to and from the event, such as school vehicles and fuel for transportation to the airport, or school vehicles and fuel for transportation to and from the conference city.
Question?
So we're talking fuel going anywhere.
Do what?
So you're saying we would pay for the fuel going anywhere? Wow, okay.
Yeah, so if they're going to Indianapolis, we would provide the transportation and the fuel in their van. We would pay the advisor's expenses, room, meals, travel. And we would pay $250 for each student, up to $2,000.
Any limit on the number of vehicles? I mean. And the reason I ask.
We could add that. This is just a start here.
The only reason I ask is there's no motivation for anybody to fly in this scenario. You know, if FBLA is going to California, they could take 3 district vehicles and save themselves a significant amount of money.
That's true. That, I agree.
What did we used to do?
I was just gonna ask.
Did you used to just provide them vehicles? That would be the question.
In the
I
first
believe
tank
so.
of gas, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where we were paying 54 cents a mile, and I was taking 2 vans and paying $1.08 every mile plus gas,
So
which I thought was, but
FFA paid for their own fuel?
yeah. That's how it was in the past. I came here and asked just for, the use of the district vehicle, and then kind of we covered everything else, kind of how it's.
Did we do the first tank of gas? Felt like we did something. Maybe I made that
This
up.
thing's been all over the
2000.
board.
Right. Rings a bell to me, like a total of 2,000.
If you're looking at whether to do one or the other, my preference, not that it has to have a say in it, would be to limit the amount of vehicles as opposed to making kids pay for gas for a school trip. And I know these national trips, they're gonna do fundraising. I mean, $250 won't cover it all. But I totally understand what Terry's saying. They also don't want kids. I would hope an advisor would not choose to drive all the way to California with kids.
Yeah, I hope
So I totally understand what you're saying, but I also,
It's that what if scenario.
there's part of it, to ask kids to pay for
So let me
gas
ask,
for the trip.
so, Mr. Green, with your 9 students and you, can you all get into a transit van and take one, or are you
That's kind of
looking?
the number I settled on simply because of that reason, because of 10 total. ride
So would there
passengers.
be room for their luggage?
What we have done in the past is actually pulled it behind the trailer, the district trailer as
Okay.
well. That worked out okay. I just parked the trailer with a lock on it at the hotel and then drive around the rest of the time. And it worked great last year. Trailer was just a little bit big, but other than that, it was okay. But that's kind of what, and my idea there was to save fuel and just kind of, with gas $3.60 a gallon, I was just trying to.
So,
I would throw out a number to maybe think about of maybe capping it at 2 vehicles, just in case.
Yeah, I've never taken more than 2, but.
does that sound,
What if it's a bus? So now we've got a group going to Kansas City, Missouri, but that's not an
That's gonna be a
overnight.
van, transit van too.
Is that an overnighter?
No, but just a day. It's just actually our East Central District. The only way that's the only place they could find.
Sure.
And they've limited, we took 20 last year. They've just limited it down to 10 this year. And I thought, well, that's actually, the right number I've got is 9 anyway, so I'll just take a van. That's kind of what I'm doing. And,
Well, I know the FBLA trip, she's not sure they're going to Dallas, and she's not sure how many they would need. I can see where you'd want to limit that. I think in my experience, I can't remember if we paid for gas or not. I'm just thinking maybe we gave the vehicles and they put the fuel in.
If you paid for gas, could you just cap it at so many miles? We'll pay up to 500 miles, and then after that, you're responsible. We have to fill all of that out on our paperwork anyways when we take a district vehicle.
or is it like Jamie said, it's the first tank?
For
Maybe
some
that's,
reason, I thought we did that, and that could be totally,
We have done that in the past. We've also done it when Keisha changed the rules that you can take school vehicles to summer camps for athletics. We've paid, if a team went to a camp outside the state of Kansas, we paid for the first tank of gas, I think, and then the team paid for the rest.
But the policy we're looking at here is just for qualified national trips. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, I'm just giving that as an example.
Right. Yep.
Or, yeah, if they participate or compete, right.
So traditionally, that's been FFA, FBLA.
Right.
FCCI.
FCCLA.
CCLA as well.
Yeah.
Now, my question is qualification, like, in May, we have contest, and if you win that contest, then you can go to this, what we're doing now, and compete, or you can just participate in the convention. We're not competing, because we didn't win. Is this,
Well,
is that?
that's why we added participate.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just
for
making
your
sure I was clear on that.
Because I knew the
just-
conference was, yeah.
Because I've heard some, just if you qualify, that money comes, or if you don't, but, FFA is just very hard to qualify in.
I just can't get when I ask people, what is your policy or what is your procedure for this? No one has the same answer. And so I think that something needs to be said. We'll provide you a vehicle if you're going to a national trip, and how much we're gonna pay for the sponsor. If they're qualifying, go to nationals or participating, are we gonna help the kids? So if they fundraise, does the organization have money to pay for the gas?
Are there sometimes more than one advisor?
Yes, it depends on the amount of kids qualified, also depends on whether you have guys and girls, sometimes.
Yeah, I know, well,
And I know before we had the transits, Mr. Green would take two of the smaller vans, so there would be a second sponsor that would have to drive that second van that would go with them.
suggestions.
I personally like the first tank of gas myself, and then.
First
that
tank of
just
gas?
Makes everything easier, but that's
I think that's,
one type, one's
since that's what
opinion.
Jamie remembers, that's what, I seem to remember that too. I seem to remember the first tank of gas is something that we've
I'd
discussed.
be fine with that, or up to a certain amount of mileage or a certain amount.
Yeah.
So how many gallons are in the transit?
Oh gosh, quite a few. It doesn't get great gas mileage, but
But that just makes it easier. If it's the first tank, it's
I
full
mean,
when he leaves and it's full when he
That-
brings it back. and it's done.
That's true,
there's
Yeah.
a
okay.
line there. That's
Okay.
driving, which, yeah, I can't remember how many gallons. I would venture to say it's 25 to 26 gallon tank.
At $4 a gallon, that's $100.
Yeah, that's good.
So let's just say with, and we'll pay for the first tank of gas.
Yeah.
I agree, okay.
So it would, right there where it says, transportation to and from the event such as school vehicles and fuel for transportation to the airport or school vehicles, with first tank of fuel for transportation to and from the conference city provided by the district.
Do some years have more interest than others? I don't want to discourage
Well,
participation.
To go out of
but-
town like this, oh yeah, they all have interest. I have a selection process that I've got to go through, and yeah, I want to, I would take 30, but I better not. I just don't want to do that. I know some schools will show up and they have 2 buses full, and I'm not doing that. But, yeah, there's always a ton of interest. There's more interest in the 9 people. It's just, that's kind of different money-wise and things.
Well, and I think, we can always amend the policy if we get to the point where, I don't want kids to miss out on something
Yeah, I don't
because we
want to
can't
prohibit people from
fundraise
doing.
or do those things, so it can always come back again, but I think that's a good place to start.
Well, this makes it very clear what we're gonna do and what the expectation would have to be if there are more.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Then they'll know how much more fundraising. we have
I
to
usually
do.
traditionally take anywhere from 9 to 12. And when it was 12, I took 2 Dodge Caravans. And when this last year, I've taken 9 simply because of the transit number of passengers, which is.
When you can always adjust the $250 per student, but it's only a maximum of $2,000. When they go to these events, the hotel rooms are not cheap, and
No,
neither is
they're
the
not.
food,
They're not.
so.
No, they make them a little cheaper. We order them through FFA and they do a little cheaper, but I don't know how much cheaper it really is. It's still pretty hefty, I thought, but.
All right, so the policy now reads exactly as it is in your packet, with the addition of, in the very last bullet, and the first tank of fuel for transportation to and from the conference city provided by the district has been added. If that is acceptable, then I would entertain a motion for the policy for funding national trips.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Terry, seconded by Jamie, to approve the policy for funding the national trips as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now, Mr. Green, we will go back to your 2 trips. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with the first one, which is just our East Central District FFA horse judging. Last year I took 25, they limited this year because of just space. There was 300 kids there and not a lot of them could see the horses and things, so we can only take 9. So that's what I'm taking, and that's kind of where I got interest anyway. The kids that are serious about it, but it's at the Saddle and Swirling Club in Kansas City, Missouri. And great location, great opportunity for kids. It's a great place to, see the horses and see that kind of industry, so it's great for the kids. Just take a van that day, I think at 6:30 in the morning, judge at 9, be back by 3:15 probably is what I'm thinking. This is kind of where it's gonna go. So that's just our East Central District, everyday district, when it just happens to be out of state like it was last year. Next one is just November, you want to?
Yep.
Okay, just go ahead and talk.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other one's November 1st to the 4th, that's National Convention of the 9 students. Taking that's just in Indianapolis, Indiana. We'll make several stops. I mean, obviously, one in Illinois to watch that cattle, or visit that cattle place, and then maybe one to see a horse stud. But then we'll go on out, and during that trip, the kids get an excellent opportunity to see the biggest career fair I've ever seen in my life. Very hands-on stuff. Kids spend hours there, and I make them talking to colleges, talking to different organizations to see what their interests are. And there's leadership opportunities there as well. And we're kind of going back and forth on a couple of tours. There's a couple of tours more geared towards, kids that are involved in mechanics and kids that are involved in animals. And I'm trying to figure out which one I want to go to. I want to pick the best one because they do cost money, and I want to actually go, and we can only go to one. So I want to pick the best one that's going to serve all our students. So I'm kind of going back and forth on that. Then also the kids have decided they kind of saved some money back. They want to go to a rodeo out there. It's sponsored by FFA. They're going to take us from the place on a transit and take us out to the rodeo and go back for their entertainment. And I think it'll be a good opportunity for the kids. We spend a whole day in that career fair and they just go after it. It is so awesome. It's a huge career fair, so I'm excited about those kids going. Got a lot of good kids going. Excited about it. That's November 1st to the 4th. I'm taking 9 students, and we'll be back Saturday afternoon. Actually, I've got to come back Saturday and go to a cousin's wedding, so we'll be back pretty early Saturday, so I can drive to Oklahoma for a cousin's wedding. So I'll be tired, but that's all right. We're good. Yeah, and I guess for this, the policy is set in place. We're just kind of asking for permission for the vehicles, I guess. So that's us. If any questions, I'm more than happy to field those.
I'd like to remind everyone, RFD TV does broadcast the convention live, and if you can pick our 9 kids out of the 450,000 that are there, they're all dressed exactly alike.
There are usually, that's too much, but there's about 60 to 70,000 FFA members there. And for an ag teacher that has to deal with where they're all dressed the same in their blue corduroy jackets, it is stressful. So we're always a buddy system, make sure we're all. I never really had any issue with kids. They're awesome. Yeah, there's about 70,000, and nationwide there's about 1 million FFA members, so 70,000 maybe. Yeah. And Kansas is growing. We're about 12 to 13,000 now. And just a few years ago, we're only 9, so we're growing. Any more questions there?
Okay, so what we're looking for tonight is approval for the conference horse judging at the Saddle and Sirloin, and that should read Club in Kansas City, Missouri, on October 18th with 9 students, and then the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis, the 1st through the 9th, or 1st through the 4th, I'm sorry, with 9 students.
I so move.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved by Marie, seconded by Kelsey to approve the 2 FFA trips for students and their sponsor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that now brings us to the FBLA trip and approval for the FBLA students and their sponsor for the Fall National Leadership Conference held November 17th and 18th in Dallas.
And Nola is at a golf tournament, and Mr. Dornbus is presenting for her.
Yeah, Nola's at the state golf tournament, so she asked me to present this, and I guess to update you, we did have one state qualifier. Just got that message from Mr. Carter. Haley Grant qualified for the state golf meet. So we have several things going on in that. So Haley Grant just qualified for state. Give you an update, JV football's winning 14-0, so.
Fantastic.
Sports update. This trip it's not one that they qualify for, so it's not a national qualifier. What it is a leadership conference. They went last year, I think last year it was in Denver. They don't actually know if they're gonna go yet or not because there's several other school activities planned, but Nola wanted, because it's in November, and we didn't wanna cover the November meeting with a really quick turnaround. She wanted to go ahead and ask for approval to go to this conference, get district transportation, and have sponsor expenses paid to go to this leadership conference. So she has some members that are interested, we're not sure yet. So this is just so that we're taking it out of state trip. We want to make sure if it does happen that we have approval to do so. And she's giving you some information there. Students would pay for their portion to attend, asking that the district provide us with a school vehicle to drive to and from the conference, as well as pay for the advisor's expenses.
All right. Any further questions for Mr. Dornbus? Thanks for the sports updates. Hearing none, I would go ahead and make the motion that we approve the FBLA students and their sponsor attend the National Fall Leadership Conference held from November 17th through the 18th in Dallas, providing a district vehicle and paying the advisor's expenses.
Second.
It's been moved by Tina Ray, seconded by Marie, to approve the FBLA trip to Dallas. Any further conversation, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the purchase of the maintenance van.
Oh, well, in your packet, you should have pictures. The brown van that Tom drives now.
It's scary.
It needs to go to the van cemetery. Bolton's over here has a maintenance van with 169,000 miles on it. Matt looked it over. He felt he can keep it running. It has shelving and storage in the rear. They've priced it at a nice price for us for $10,626. And there is an option to get an extended warranty if we're interested. I highly recommend that we upgrade our mechanic's van. Custodial van, what do we call it?
Maintenance, yeah.
Maintenance van,
Catch
yeah.
all.
I think we've heard comments, we don't know whether or not they're gonna make it back and forth to,
Oh, when he
Alta
starts it up.
Vista. And that you can hear it from the grade school all the way over to here, so, and vice versa, so. So it looks like what we're looking for approval of is the 10,626 plus the warranty, which is $2,175 if we want the extended warranty.
Did Matt recommend the warranty?
He says it has high mileage and if anything goes wrong, it's going to be very limited what that warranty covers, that Matt felt that he could probably get the basics fixed himself. Or he asked Bolton's to look for another one for us, but it would probably be closer to $20,000.
I'm good without the warranty then, since that's what Matt said. Without
Yeah,
the
he's saying
warranty,
the
if he
con
can
is the
handle it.
warranty, so he's saying he probably wouldn't get the extended warranty that they offered.
Is that a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve that we purchase a maintenance van in the value of $10,626 plus some change, if there's some change in there.
Can I get a second? It's been moved by Kelsey and seconded by Marie to approve the purchase of the maintenance van from Bolton's in the amount of $10,626 and some change. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Great. We can eliminate one vehicle from our fleet that needs to go away. Okay, the JBCC policy, and this is not an action item tonight. This is a conversation and a discussion. So
what you have in your packet is the information I had printed last time. Once we decide what our policy is, we need to have it published in the newspaper for 2 weeks with a public hearing at the beginning of the next meeting. Now, we could wait until November and approve the policy and then have a policy hearing and have it approved in December. But they're suggesting we go ahead and do it. So if we need to make any changes with the patrons that would come to our hearing in November, it would give us time to upgrade our policy.
so we're actually looking at two policies here, right? JBC.
The JBC is for resident students. This is enrollment for students that live within our district. And in that 2-3 page document, there are all the red lined items out. And if you look at those headlines, those talk about non-resident students. So what we're doing is we're taking our regular JBC policy and making it for resident students only. So all we're taking out is the paragraphs that talk about non-resident students. So that would be the first motion we would need, is to accept JBC as presented. And we will probably go ahead and publish it with the new one. So I would need a separate motion on that.
Madam President, I move that we accept policy JBC as presented.
It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey to accept JBC, the policy on resident enrollment as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So now JBCC policy.
So JBCC policy is basically a policy about non-resident students, students that do not live in our district. And in this, it says, by May 1st, we must list and publish on our website the capacity you have in every grade level. Then on June 1st, we open up open enrollment for anyone that wants to attend our school. And it closes on June 30th, that lives outside our district lines. And if there's capacity in the grade that they want to attend, and there's more people that apply than there is capacity, we must have a lottery. I assume we're drawing hats out of a name, out of a hat, basically, a name out of a hat. So there are no qualifications for a non-resident student. No academics, no attendance, and no discipline issues for someone that has not attended here. If we have capacity and we draw their name out of a hat, it doesn't matter what they've done before.
Can we change that part of the policy, or is that from the state?
That is from the state.
That's
We
state
have, we
statute
do not have
requirement.
we do not have an option. Unless that child is under suspension or expulsion and has not completed the time from a former school, we do not have to take them. All right? So on your very last sheet in red, I've highlighted yellow. So for students that we have already attending our school that are non-resident students, we can set up some qualifications for them. They can attend next year. They're automatically in our enrollment. They do not have to reapply. But we're asking that they have a 96% attendance to retain their status, or they do not qualify as a truant. So these are saying they can be denied if they don't have 96%. They'll be denied if they are truant. They will be denied if their parent or person acting as a parent provides false or fraudulent information in the application process. They will be denied if they are not a resident of Kansas. They will be denied if they're currently under a period of suspension or expulsion from any Kansas school district, and that has not expired until after the start of our school year. They will be denied if they've had 3 or more out-of-school suspensions in the current school year, excluding suspensions, a manifestation determination of the student's disability, or failure on the part of the school to implement an individualized education programs, or section 504.
I think there's some redundancy in that.
Yeah, I
Seems
see
like
that.
Taken out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they will be denied if they've been given a long-term suspension or expulsion by our district. So that student that is our student already comes to school next fall and has any of these items happen to them during the school year, or the new non-resident student, once they start our school, we can use these to say, you're no longer going to come here. We can have them go back to their home district or wherever they want to go. And then the other option, the other thing that says, a student is regarded to be in good academic standing and is making acceptable progress toward promotion, graduation, and/or IEP goals, individual education program through special ed. So that opens up a lot of latitude for administrators to look at. So if we have that non-resident student that's attending here already next year, these are things that we can look at next year. Or if we have students that are here that are non-residents the end of May, and we decide that they don't qualify under these, we can tell them they're no longer going to attend here. There's a lot yet to be determined.
And I think you said that each time you have a meeting, the navigation piece
So
changes a
then,
little
yeah,
bit.
there were a couple things that we put in that they failed several classes and are not on track to graduate with their cohort group. We were told we couldn't use that. And then it's going to be difficult for everyone. It's not just going to be us. We are advised to make our capacity low. So let's take grade school classes. We look at 18 to 20 in a class. And maybe we only have 18 students there. We would want to list our capacity at 15, because we have students that move here in our district that we will have to take. And if we take too many out-of-district students, we may have to get a second teacher if that class goes up. So we've been advised to make our capacities low so we can take care of our own students if those numbers change. I would say we approve this as the policy that we want to publish. And then in November, it'll be in the newspaper for 2 weeks or 2 times each week. 2 times each week for 2 weeks. And then we'll hold a hearing in November. If there are questions about the policy and we don't want to vote on it that night, we can still wait till December to finalize the policy without having the second hearing. So I'm hoping at KSDE, we're going to get more information. At the state conference, we'll get more information. All of the superintendents I know are just shaking their head. So we will get through this. And I don't see that you're going to have a lot of enrollment in June. I think people that are out of district that have already wanted to come here have already applied. We've already looked at students' records to make sure they're in good standing when they come here. So I think the high school probably will have the hardest time to figure out capacity, but you're still looking at an English class and how many students can be in that room. Can you get 20 students in that room? And if we have 66 kids in a class, that's already 3 big classes. So we probably don't have capacity for many more. So we're all waiting for the final advice from the state on what we're going to do. This is all from KSAB. They've had, other people have had different attorneys look at it outside the educational field that have different interpretations. So
going back to the non-resident and the criteria, and maybe you said this, I just want to clarify, those aren't hard, you're going back. Those are, you may be deemed you can't stay here because of those things.
once you're here, that's correct. Once you're here, this would be something that we would judge students after they start school next August.
So if they click one of those boxes, they're not automatically going out.
Well, that's our decision.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but it's not an
Right.
automatic decision.
No.
It's not hard and
No.
fast.
That would be an admin or board or both? All of
The
the-
what?
Would it be an admin, board decision, all of the above?
I would look at the administration and see what issues the student also had that maybe didn't come in here. Maybe we got ISS instead of out of school suspension for 3 days. Are they disrespectful to the teachers? Different things like that can add up. And then all of a sudden, they hit one of these boxes and we have a few other discipline issues that we can add on to it. So I think it'll definitely be an administrative decision that could be brought to the board if that's what we want to look at. We have to be careful on gender, race, age,
Disabilities.
athletics. Anything that we're looking at has to be treated very carefully. And it only takes one that's not happy or one that didn't get in because we didn't have capacity to take them. If we take a student that, let's say, is a junior, and we take that student and that student has a second grade sibling and we don't have capacity, we do not have to take the second grade sibling. But if we take a student that has a sibling that maybe has some other needs, it definitely says we do not have to offer transportation to anybody out of district, but we do have to offer transportation to a student in special education whose IEP says you will provide transportation. So maybe somebody unhappy in Manhattan, they think we have a great special ed program here, and they want their child to come here, and transportation is in their IEP, we would be driving to and from Manhattan each day. I don't see that, that's quite a ways. So,
Do we have to have a formal policy for how we set capacity? Will we have to formalize?
no, we do not have to have a policy on how we set capacity. Basically, we're gonna look at the size of our rooms, look at the numbers that we have, that we're going to have in that next grade, and make our capacity lower, just so we're taking care of anybody that would move into our district for fall.
But we have to provide that capacity number prior to the end of the school year.
And we're supposed to do that
Yeah, that will have to be
right?
posted on our website May 1st.
Every year.
Yes, annually, yeah, it's an annual review.
And then that's every year.
So what we're seeking this evening is approval to publish the policy as presented, and also to set the policy hearing date and time prior to our next board meeting on November 13th at 5:50 PM. I think we need to make some changes to that one
Yeah, I got it.
sentence
Yeah.
that has the redundancy, but that's an easy fix.
Some good automated.
Yeah. Cut and paste there.
Madam President, I move that we publish policy JBCC on non-resident students as presented this evening with the change to that one line, and set our policy hearing date and time for November 13th, 2023 at 5:50 PM.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Terry, that we approve the JBCC policy for publication this evening with the changes made to that one paragraph, and that we set the policy hearing date and time for Monday, November 13th at 5:50 PM. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We get to skip the next item on the agenda, the policy for funding national trips. We've already done that. So the next piece is the facilities assessment. And I think Amber's going to share her screen. Mrs. Myers provided several handouts, and this is a separate attachment because of its size to your handbook. that
So all of
received.
you should have,
This-
oh, there you
Yes,
go.
that.
All of you have one of these.
Yes.
I didn't, and Mr. Coleman sent me this, so I printed this out separate. You all have this. It has the pictures in it.
We reviewed that back in June.
Yeah,
Yes.
June or May. So, what you have here on these spreadsheets is a printout of each building in the district, all right? And it shows you the 1, 2, 3 numbers, good, fair, poor, what needs to be done in each building. And I gave this list to Mr. Kelly, our maintenance person, and asked him to look at all the red number ones to see whether or not our maintenance team could repair these, or if we had to contract out. I would say probably 75% of the items under number 1 can be repaired by us. And you get into the electrical part, you know, we need to start a rotation on repairing or replacing, or we need to contract out. I would recommend that we do repair all the number 1 reds. I have no idea how much it will cost, but some of them, like we have a downspout that's not connected to the hole in the ground over here, and the water just goes out on the sidewalk and ruins the sidewalk, and it just needs a connecting part that goes in.
will Mr. Kelly determine, like, what needs to happen first, second, all the way to last on here then?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Probably, we would look at similar items in different buildings as we're repairing. So if we're doing all plumbing at one time, some of them are small, some of them are more. HVAC system. You've got some hot water UVs and ceiling fan coil units that need to be put on a rotation to be replaced. Package heaters need to be on rotation, that's what he says. And a couple things he didn't mark. Like at Prairie Heights, the electric water heater circulation pump appeared to be in good condition, but the gas water heater circulation pump shows sign of corrosion and may need replaced soon. And he says we can replace that in-house. Flush tank water closet, some of the toilets are poor in flushing. We can replace those toilets. Some of it I don't understand what it is. Just to be honest with you. And there are things here in the district office that need to be repaired. Showers appear to be no longer in use. So I don't know where we have showers here in the district office. Oh, no, that's the grade school.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, the showers aren't used at the grade school, and they're gonna remove them. So.
Better storage.
Circulation pumps. I think Mr. Coleman and his company was pretty thorough in the spring. This is just another, same thing that's in here, but the pictures are in your handout. Now they're in your packet if you want to look at them. But some are pretty simple, some concrete uneven in different places that we haven't repaired. So
for getting the bids on these things, will we get a list first of
the things
things that are more mandatory?
The things that we can do in-house, we'll do. The things that need to be contracted out, we will get bids on. Yes.
And then the ones that do need bids, will get the priorities listed, or will he
Yes.
come to us just one at a time with it?
No, we should do more than one at a time, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering the process of what that's gonna look like.
I would have to, we'll have to look and see how serious it is. But since they're red on here, I think they're all
Pretty
serious.
serious, yeah.
We need to take care of, right. We get something that's bid out really high, that's going to be a domino effect on something else, we need to look at that first.
So what, are we needing a motion for anything tonight, or is this more just,
I think
this is what we're doing?
An update.
I think this is an update. We're gonna start working on the in-house ones in red. And then once we have to get a contract on something, if it's a reasonable bid from someone, if we can go more local than anything else and get it done right away, I think we'll go ahead and get it finished. But if it gets to be a large amount of money, I think we'll have a big discussion about it.
So that leads us right in then to the maintenance bid from Central Mechanical.
Central Mechanical was who came and cleaned and replaced coils to our air conditioning when we had those heat days. We did not close school because of heat. We closed school because heat on the bus and children were getting sick. But several at the high school, each grade school, were not producing 100%. And so Central Mechanical was called to come in and get on our rooftops in that heat. They found that most of our air conditioners had not been maintained in a while, and they were cleaning fans, replacing coils that probably should have been looked at the beginning of each season. They have given us, I'm gonna pass this around, they have given us a bid to do preventive maintenance for our district. And I have a pretty big check off the list of what they'll look at and what needs to be done each time. But for example, right now, they would come in and check out all our heating systems. Make sure the furnace filters are changed, make sure everything is in working condition, getting ready to turn our furnaces on. Have you guys at the grade schools turned your heat on yet? No,
Yeah, I think Mike came in and test fired a couple of them, because you could smell it, you know, how they burn. When they get
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
So I think he tested, but no, not
We
yet.
still have a unit in the Title I that hasn't worked
Okay.
for a month.
So, I had asked Mr. Kelly about, the air conditioning units. He said we have over 100 separate units in the district, and that it was very hard to get to them all. And so this is one reason, I asked Central Mechanical to come in and see what it takes to do preventive maintenance each quarter in our district. Well, there's quite a few rooftop units here. If anybody wants to look at this, I have 2 copies. But their bid is $4,700 a quarter, which is $18,000 a year. They're very thorough on what they do. And it may be an issue that we just begin to talk about now and maybe decide later.
I'm not gonna pretend to be an HVAC person, so my question would be, is this something, if we did this initially and brought them in to deep clean, get everything all up to snuff, that we could then take back over potentially with our maintenance
He said
people
we
to
can-
keep maintaining them?
This is not a 3-year contract, this we can cancel at any time.
It does look like it says on here that if we deny the multi-year option, an annual renewal will be subject to a 3% increase.
Right.
I just am thinking, if it's something, once they were properly maintained and good to go, if it was something we could get back to
You can
doing
just
in-house.
do it for 1 year.
Part of my question there is why has it not been properly maintained, you know, or are they not,
There are
you
100
know?
units and they're not getting the time to get to them all. Is this something we need forever, or is this something we need to look at increased maintenance? Is this
That's what I'm
something we need
thinking,
to
if
look
we
at?
do it short-term, it is going to last situation.
Nancy, did they give you a detailed checklist of what they would do annually?
What?
Did they give you an annual checklist of what they would do, like filters, cleanings,
Yeah,
charges?
if you wanna
Oh,
look
there's
at
an
this.
extra.
So Prairie Heights has, Prairie Heights has 1.5 pages of all their systems, split systems, and what they would do to these each year. I don't know, you got a lot of split systems here, there's probably, you have 24 split systems. I assume that's one here and one there, I don't know what that is. An exhaust fan, a recirculation pump, and a water heater. Huh?
Yeah,
I was counting, I'm like, I can count 20 off the top of my head, so yeah.
Yeah, were you counting?
Yeah.
And then here's Council Grove Elementary has 2.5 pages of splits and pumps and air handling units, sump pumps, backflow, water heaters. So they would come in, oh, high school, 1, 2, 5. Yeah, there might be 40, 50 on here.
Wow.
So when we talk about almost 100, including the 3 buildings, he's for air conditioning. And then here's all the exhaust fans, the boiler, the sump pump. Pass these around if people want to look at them.
Sounds like a lot.
Is this too big for our local HVAC people to do? Is there any need to have a conversation with them?
Local as, you mean in Council Grove?
Services Unlimited?
I don't know. This is who Mr. Kelly got a bid from. He didn't choose anybody else.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what their capacity is.
I don't know either.
But I guess I feel like we should at least
Yeah,
Reach out.
make
reach
that.
out,
Okay,
yeah, to Services Unlimited and see if,
Services Unlimited.
There's also, is it
KVK,
KVK? They're in,
They
Harrington
do a lot
Hope.
of work here.
they do a lot of work here. If it's
KVA
out of
KVK.
Services Unlimited capacity.
out of,
Harrington Hope.
okay, let me get some more bids. And we did start an advertisement for a director of maintenance in the newspaper today, online. And this may be something that, when we decide who that is, if they want to look this over and see what type of help we need.
Okay. We will move on to the next item, which is the tennis court improvements. Mr. Dornbos and Mr. Tyner.
This needs to.
Got a lot of handouts there tonight.
So what we're presenting tonight, the tennis courts that are just north of the football stadium. So if you've been around Council Grove for a number of years, you know that at one time we had tennis courts and basketball courts that sat on where the grass practice field is.
It's also a high jump.
There's also a high jump pit. Well, there's a lot of things other than quality tennis courts that I got here.
That's true.
So that's where they used to sit, and I can't remember the exact year, but it's probably been about 20 years since, at one time we had a very active tennis association, and about 20 years ago, somewhere
After 2002.
after 2002, the tennis association came to the school district. They gave, I'm gonna say approximately about $150,000 to build the facility we have now, with the caveat that if the district provides the land, they're the district's tennis courts now, which was a great thing. It's been a great thing for both the community and the school. They are used a ton for our PE classes. The usage by the community is not what it used to be, and that has to do with a change in the popularity, really, of tennis to pickleball. And so the problem with what was set up was, we now have, we got these great tennis courts, but there was no system set up in place to maintenance them. And we're really at a point now where our tennis courts are in pretty rough shape. And we also, year in and year out, we have a big community push to do something with pickleball down at the tennis courts. And so what Tim and I have is a plan that we are hoping to get support from the school district. We have a plan. I originally, when Hellas came and completed our track and football field, I asked Hellas to go up and look at our tennis courts, come up with what would it take to resurface them, put pickleball in. Then lots of things have happened since then. And so Tim and I talked again this fall and went back to Hellas. We've talked about a lot of different designs. The design that you have in front of you is a design from Hellas, and they're actually willing to honor the price that they gave us back. It's been
2019.
Yes, 2019. So it's been a while.
So what this plan is that you have in front of you, what you're seeing is the drawings. It has 4 courts, 4 tennis courts, and within the tennis courts, you have pickleball lines painted in as well also. There's lots of different ways we've looked at doing this. This is the basic way. You have nets that then the netting systems are convertible. There's a crank system so you can, I don't play tennis and I don't play pickleball, but I've seen the pictures of the systems now. I've had it explained to me, you can convert back and forth. A person can go down to the courts on their own and they can convert from tennis to pickleball. Our PE classes use it for pickleball, probably more than tennis, but we feel the need there. The facility was donated by the Tennis Association. Even though, there's a lot less tennis, I don't think it's appropriate to totally do away with tennis because there are people that play tennis there. So this is the design. We've played with the design. We've had on one side, we've had to where you could put 3 just pickleball courts in. Here's a design there that has the 3 pickleball courts and the 2 tennis courts. When we do a design like that, it gets a lot more expensive. And we're talking, so I'm gonna go over the price, and I thought I had made copies of the Hellas's scope for this, and I'll make copies and get them to everybody. I'll give this one to Nancy tonight. But on the scope, this project would be a total of $38,312. That is not what we're asking for the district. And I'm gonna let Tim talk here in just a little bit about what we're looking at potentially to fund the project. But the scope that this would include, so the $38,312 would be clean off each court with an asphalt blower or power washer to remove all dirt and debris. If you go down there, you can see the surface has eroded somewhat. There's also a black film across it. Our PE teachers tried to power wash it themselves. They were about 2 weeks into it, and it just isn't feasible to just go out there with your regular everyday power washer to clean it. Apply 1 coat of acrylic resurface coating at a rate of 0.7 gallons per square yard. Silica sand mixed into each mix to provide a smooth and textured underlayment. Apply 2 coats of a fortified acrylic color coating. That's where you're going to get the pickleball dimensions and the lines. And then lay out and paint the 2-inch wide lines. So there's different lines for each sport. One of the reasons, you could put the 3 pickleball courts in. There's designs that we had that had 6 pickleball courts on there, but there's a difference between recreational and being able to play tournaments. And we do have people in the community that would like to host tournaments. And if we could host tournaments there, that would be great. That's just another event bringing people to the community. So in this design, it also then includes the cost for putting in the netting and the convertible system for each one. And those convertible systems, they're close to $2,000 a piece. So that's kind of the basic project. There's also an add-on that we could do. There's some desire from people in the community if we do this project to put in, at first it was the wind screens that you can put up on chain link fence. The problem with the wind screens, number one, you gotta replace them probably every 5 years just because of the damage they get and the wind that we get here. But also, one of the things that, if you remember when the city put up the new netting that didn't replace the poles, they put up a windscreen on the outfield. If you're not rated for the type of poles that you're using, it'll just take them all the way over. So Hellas instead has suggested putting slats into the fencing that provide the windbreak. Also, you can do some stuff with it. You could go navy and gold and do some design with it. So there's an added cost. If we did all 4 corners of both sides, it would cost about $7,296. But we've talked about, do we really need to put it on all sides, or could we just do the north and the south? Because that's where we deal with the wind from. Also, it would give you that view into the courts from the west still, and helps us be able to still monitor the courts. So that's the project we're looking at. We really think this would be a great benefit for the community. We know we need to do something as a district to maintain them. And so I think there's some added benefit to us working with the community to potentially do this project. We've got some other things that we need to do down there. If you go to the football games, you'll notice, you can see one of the lights that's tilted. We have a base that's pulled away from the foundation. We've already talked to Tom Van Valkenburg. He's got a plan for taking the light down, taking the concrete base that's there out, pouring a new concrete base. So that's something outside the scope that we know we can do to improve the area. We need to be doing some checks on the electric. We checked it a couple of years ago. You could go down, and it's designed so a person in the community can go down at night, turn the lights on and play. We need to constantly be checking that and maintaining that. But this is the project we're talking about. What I'm asking is for the board to consider doing half the project up to $20,000. Hellas is on the pre-approved bid list with Greenbush. We believe Hellas does a good job. The projects that they did for us down at the facility, they still continue to amaze us. Anytime we have any issues, we can call them, they're here. Michelle came up again when I told her we're still thinking about this. She came back. So Michelle's the one that came to board meetings. She's the one that was a part of our project the whole way through it. She came back up here a couple weeks ago, looked over the facility, then went down and checked our football facility and track facility at the same time. So we've been happy with them. Happy that they're willing to stay with that price. So that's what we're looking for from the board. I'm gonna let Tim talk a little bit. We've been working with where the other money would come from. So I'll let Tim tell you a little bit about that.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We've got, through the Council Corps Area Foundation, they've been setting up these various funds for different projects, and I spent the last 9 years on that board, and they've done a really good job through Amy Honor and her efforts to target needs and use this foundation so people that want to be able to give money to something, they can give it and write it off their taxes or whatever. So I went ahead and set up the CG Pickleball Tennis Court Renovations Fund. And we're at kind of a time crunch to get this done. November is match month. November 8th is match day for the Council Corps Area Foundation. They're going to have about $70,000 that they're going to help match to funds like this or any other fund that they may have. So for every dollar that I would give, they'll give 50 cents up to a certain amount. So it's kind of a cool thing. I've already talked to several entities. I'm confident to get, we need about 46,000 if we want to go all in. And if we do half the slats, or let's say 2/3 of the slats, we'll need about 4,000, 4,500 versus the 7 or so. But then there's other things, as continued maintenance. There's always little niceties you'd like to have for the, just, ball holders. In pickleball, I played a little pickleball. Go through a lot of balls. They're flying all over the place, and you always have a little rack over their balls because you're too lazy to go, even though we're trying to get exercise, we don't want to walk back there, so we can pick up another ball. But, and then other designs. Jay and I've had a lot of calls, or not a lot, but enough, I guess, on different things. The 4x4, which we're calling this design, seems to make as much sense today. As pickleball expands, we get more people interested, maybe 10 years down the road or something, that facility, when it needs to be coded again, or 15 years, that can be a discussion then. But we kind of both agreed and that we want to keep, I've talked to a lot of the tennis players, we want to keep the tennis courts, as it may come back. There's some interest coming back a little bit, and there's a lot of interest in pickleball. And the Life Center has really our only pickleball facility. But I think we'll be surprised at the amount of people who start playing down there, especially if we can get it, as nice as I think we can. So I have all the confidence in the world that by the end of November, we'll have another $20,000 raised, $25,000 raised to do this. And so, even though this kind of got dumped on the school a few years ago, that's kind of the way these small towns are, So I have all the confidence we'll do that. I'd like to keep this fund in place The only place they'll write a check out of this fund is to USD 417. So for future maintenance and upkeep and needs like that, we'll keep this fund there, because things will wear out, we'll want to change things. It's a beautiful facility. I mean, Jeff and the gang down there did a wonderful job with it, and, you know, the courts just need to be recovered, and they need to be maintained with some, there's a treatment you can do annually on those things to keep, Mr. Wilkins can have to go and try to power wash it, you know, if we can get that going. But again, it's easy to forget about them if you're not using them very much, so I'll shut up. Any questions?
So I think what we're seeking this evening is up to the $20,000 approval from the board, so that they can move ahead with the match day and improvements to the pickleball court.
And I would add that, so timing-wise, if we proceed with this, we could get on Hellas's schedule as early as the spring, as soon as it warms back up. There were 2 windows. The last couple of weeks was 1 window, and that wasn't gonna happen, so once it warms back up in the spring, it would take 3 weeks to complete the project.
And we have quite a bit of money in gifts and donations that have been tagged for athletics and different facilities, and we're looking through that. So the majority of the money is gonna come out of our donation account.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for the tennis court improvements.
Madam President, I move that we approve the proposed tennis court improvements up to $20,000.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Terry, that we approve the proposed tennis court improvements with up to $20,000 from the district. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign.
You know, real quick, we
Motion
are
carries.
planning on putting up a board over there, and, you know, to thank everybody that, and 417 will be up along with everybody else, proportional to their donations, so. That way we get Honus's name up there, I know she.
That's my retirement.
I think she'll be able to run this thing for me.
We do plan to have a board. Any donors, we should give them credit for making donations towards it. So we do want to put up a board, which one of the things that I do want to share that we need to do. When we did the football facility, we started with a plan that we would bring in donations. Nobody could have foreseen, as we were working through those plans, that the same night that we had a board meeting that we shut down the schools, Hellas then also called that night and said, hey, we're getting shut out of commercial construction in other states. What about us coming and doing the project a year early? Well, Tim had already made a pledge towards the football field, and so it's only appropriate. I am going to, well, so that's where it stopped, because then we went with the project. And so what's never happened is we've never given credit to Tyner's insurance group for what they did towards the football field. So we will be having a banner made also to be put at the football stadium as well. But we need to make sure that when we go into this project, we are going to follow through and do what we said we're going to do with donors. So we would put a board on the west side that faces out towards the parking area that would give credit to any donors to the project, including USD 417.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tyner. The next item on our agenda is the curriculum long-range plan. Mrs. Gare.
So as most of you, I'm sure, know what this is, our long-range plan just helps guide us as we move forward throughout the years, what content we're going to be studying, resources we're going to purchase. So due to some changes at the state level and changes within the district, we are seeking approval of some updates. So I tried to update everything in yellow. The first one up there, the early learning pre-K, this was something that Kelly Gentry and I talked about this summer before she ever left, that we really needed to have the pre-K on here. We purchased their resources, they're part of our district, but they were never on our long-range plan. So that one's kind of a no-brainer for us. We need to have them on here so we can be planning when to purchase new resources for them, when to do standard studies. This could get a little wonky depending on resources we adopt in the future, because as we go along, some resources are including pre-K into them and some are not. So right now, we kind of have a standalone pre-K resource, it's called Frog Street, but some of the math resources we're looking into include pre-K. So pre-K might end up coming down in here into the content areas. It might be included in math, but not in ELA. Pre-K might get a little confusing from time to time, but we want to have them on here somehow. So I added a pre-K line. The other changes that we made were down here, or that I'm asking to make, are down here at the health PE. This really came about because of the changes in graduation requirements. We're going to talk about that later once the state figures out exactly how that's all going to finalize. But this is something that they have stood their ground on from the very beginning, that this was going to change. Basically, most districts in the state are similar to ours. They offer a health PE combined class freshman year. The state is saying now you have to have a health class and you have to have a PE class, and those have to be separate. They have to be transcribed separate, enrolled separate, completely separate classes. And Mr. Dornbos and Mrs. Day and I have talked about it. We're going to continue to kind of update that plan and hopefully have a plan for all the changes to share with you in December. But for this one, it's a pretty simple change. It's just how we're going to organize it at the building. But to do that and to be the most effective in that, we really wanted to move this back. So on the old plan, their resource adoption and curriculum study was over farther. But if we have to implement this with our current 8th graders, so for next year's freshman class, we need to have a plan in place. And it felt unfair to say, we're gonna split that class and we're gonna do that for next year, but not give the teachers time to really dig into those standards and really look at what are we actually gonna ask them to teach. So that is, I'm asking if we can push that back and include them in the SAC for this summer. I don't know if that'll. So up here at the top is where we list our summer SACs. I do not want to take away from what we already had planned, which was social studies, because that's a resource that we really need to dig into. We need to dig into those standards, and that's outdated, and we need to do that. So I'm actually asking to add health and PE for this summer. That does mean, though, that we would have 2 resource adoptions in 1 year. I don't think that's a too awful large amount, considering it usually doesn't cost as much as a big like ELA or math content adoption, but that would make 2 resource adoptions in 1 year. When we move that back, then I also was gonna move fine arts back to help round out our pacing here. So the highlights are all in yellow. Kind of adjusted some things. And because this is our policy moving forward, I'm just asking for board approval on those changes. Questions?
Where was fine arts on the old plan?
These 2 were both just bumped a year over. So they were 2 years, I'm sorry. So health and PE, the resource was here, and this was over here. Okay. So they've just both got bumped back. Mainly because we want to give those teachers time to get into those content areas with the changes that are being made.
Any further questions for Mrs. Garrett? So she's just asking for approval of the long-range plan as proposed this evening with those changes on there.
Madam President, I move to approve the curriculum long-range plan as presented.
It's been moved by Kelsey, seconded by Jamie to approve the curriculum long-range plan as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the federal audit proposal.
We have 2 audits that are necessary each year. One is the federal and then one is the state. We received notification from KSDE that our state audit will be the first week in November, which is the earliest I've ever been involved in that. But what they do is they'll go into all the information that we turned in for September 20th enrollment, and they will check all the weightings. They'll check to make sure that kids that are on the bus are going the right mileage. They will actually drive from that school out to a house. They will randomly choose 2 or 3 people and make sure they're 2.5 miles away in order to get funding. They will pull a handful of lunch applications to make sure all that information is correct on people that are receiving free and reduced meals. They will look at students' individual education programs through special ed, at-risk funding, and make sure that the total amount that we put on our report, which is called the Superintendent's Organizational Report 66, is the correct amount of money that we'll receive for state aid. And he will probably be here 2, maybe 2.5 days. It's a young man, Joe Haverkamp out of Washington, Kansas, who's originally from Seneca, who did the audit in Belleville last year, and he's a very personable young man that will guide us through the information. He's already asking for information for Amber to gather and for the secretaries of the schools each to have. And then that one is not our choice. That is who we get. The federal one, Bryce and I walked down and talked to Cindy Jensen to see if she would be interested in doing our federal audit, possibly in January or February. And she has a proposal here for us on her cost, and if we like her proposal, we need to approve her to be our federal auditor.
Do we need to approve both those amounts? Do we need to approve both amounts?
I would say yes, up to that $6,000 if there are hourly rates, and the $7,500.
Okay. So there's 2 amounts that are listed there, the $7,500, and then the single federal audit billed at the hourly rates not to exceed $6,000. So
is that about a normal rate? I have nothing to compare it to.
last year, I think we paid $10,500 twice. So we're, yeah, this is below.
Thank you. I didn't know what to even base it.
And she's local, and she had done our federal audit before. It's been several years.
Correct. She was with Aldrich. So we've used Cindy and Amy Allen both in the past.
Madam President, I move that we approve the federal audit proposal from Cindy Jensen CPA in the amount of $7,500 for the audit fee and additional work at an hourly rate not to exceed $6,000 on the federal audit.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the proposal from Cindy Jensen for an audit fee of $7,500 and additional work for the single federal audit would be billed at hourly rates not to exceed $6,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we are getting ready to move into our executive session pieces that we have for this evening. As we stated, there will be no action coming out of those. So if those online or in the room would like to leave, except for Mr. Dornbos,
Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma. And the open meeting will resume in the board meeting in 10 minutes with Mr. Dornbos, the board, and Mrs. Meyer.
It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we go into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exemption relating to actions observed adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma with Mr. Dornbos, the board, and Mrs. Meyer for 10 minutes. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Jay, we'll let them leave. We'll make sure we'll.
On the left.
No, they're probably not
There you go.
snack for this.
Okay,
Let's go 15 minutes.
15, okay. Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom in 15 minutes with the board and Mrs. Meyer.
Can I get a second, please? Moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we go into executive session for personnel pursuant to non-elected matters for personnel under coma for 15 minutes with the board and Mrs. Meyer. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 15 minutes.
Okay, Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to superintendent evaluation. We will resume in the boardroom in 30 minutes with the board. And we need Amber Weeks and Nancy Meyer as needed.
Okay. Can I get a second? Okay. It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we go into executive session pursuant to an individual employee's performance for superintendent evaluation exemption under coma, and the meeting will resume in 30 minutes with the board, Amber Weeks, and Mrs. Meyer. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now you need to pause.
Really big up there. Thank you, Terry. Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to superintendent evaluation due to non-elected personnel exception under coma. And the open meeting will resume in the boardroom in 15 minutes with the board, Amber Weeks, and Nancy Meyer.
Second. It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we go into an executive session for personnel pursuant to non-elected matters and exemptions under coma for the superintendent evaluation for 15 minutes with Amber Weeks, Mrs. Meyer, and the board. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Yeah. With no further items to discuss this evening, we are adjourned. Just a reminder, we will have a hearing on November 13th at 5:50 p.m. regarding the policy on non-resident students. We're adjourned.
Thank you.